Join us live on the Sherry Lord Talk Show podcast. Start your day off with the Higher Vibrational Podcast with weekly guests, covering spirituality, healthy foods, and so much more. Go to sherrylord.com for more info. Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us every Tuesday. We appreciate you and our followers, and please like us and share our page. And we have a fantastic, amazing guest today, and we love him. He is amazing. His name is David Young. He is an award-winning musician, a gifted channel, and also travels and hosting his signature workshop, A Portal Between Heaven and Earth. And we also sent out everybody the video, and we hope you enjoyed it and that you shared it out. This is from David Young. Remember him. I have some of his CDs. Make sure you get it, and his books. He's going to talk about himself a little bit here and what he's up to. And he is amazing. He's natural at this. And the other thing we want to say is the missing years of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So welcome, David. Thank you for being on our show.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Sherry. It's great to share this information and to share this other side of their story that people started experiencing at my events. And just imagine that, starting in 2014, I started to do 4 meditation events a week.
Okay.
And just imagine each one of those events had 20 or 30 people. I'm one of the original sound healers. I started doing this and traveling as doing it. Now everybody knows about sound healers, but I was the first one to tour like this. And I used my musical abilities because I played 2 flutes at one time, and I also sing and play guitar. I don't do that I don't do it at the same time. I'm either playing the flutes or I'm singing.
Yeah.
And so I would do these 3-hour events 4 nights a week that would have me teaching and sharing things about my books, but it would also have me doing a 25-minute flute meditation where I was playing 2 flutes at one time, and it put people in this altered state. And after the meditation was over, I would ask the audience, who wanted to share their experience. And it was amazing because sometimes there were 4 or 5 people who were giving the exact same experience.
Yeah.
Long experiences, things that would take people like 2-3 minutes to explain the whole thing. And after about a year, something that was very odd happened. Because during that year, over 1,000 people had experiences where their mom or their grandmother or their best friend from childhood who died young had appeared to them playing. And in the beginning, that was a shock, a real shock. But after a couple of months of it, 4 nights a week, it never stopped. So it became reality, I guess.
Wow.
And you can't believe the things that people shared. It was incredible. And I got used to that after a year, but after a year, something weird happened. And that was the weird thing was that Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary appeared to people at my events. And 3 people saw Jesus standing off to my right. And they completely described the exact same thing. Now, I grew up in a Jewish family, so where are you supposed to put that in when you hear something like that? That would be like if you grew up in a Christian family and, your brother said, hey, you know what? Muhammad or Buddha or Krishna appeared to me this morning, and where do you fit that in your reality? And so I was talking to a channeler by that point, okay? Because my first book was about my experiences with George Harrison from 2010 till
I remember. I remember you having that at the International Trade Show. And we had a very brief, we don't always remember everybody, but I remember a very brief conversation with you and that you had channeled that. And certain people to me, because I put on events, stand out. And you were one of the ones that stood out. And I remember 20 years ago, and I moved to Florida. you were doing, it was down in Venice. There was like these tents and there was some event going on and you were playing your music. You had the two flutes, you had people can listen to them. I bought several of your CDs and I loved them. They're very highly evolved, but the flutes were very calming. You can get into a meditation really well. And really, really sincere person, and you're very gifted at what you do.
Well, thank you so much, Sherry. I started out playing at art festivals
Right.
in 1993, and I had a group called Celestial Winds with me
Wow.
and Lisa Lynn Franco, who played the Celtic harp. And
Oh,
we made
wow.
3 albums under the name Celestial Winds, and we sold 100,000 CDs together.
Okay.
And then in 1995, she and I stopped working together, and I just started hiring like
Yeah.
the greatest musicians in the
Yeah.
world to make albums with me. And I made 70 albums of music with the greatest
Wow.
in the
Wow.
world. Yeah, like Ringo Starr's
Wow.
guys who are in Ringo Starr's band have made 3 albums with me. 2 guys that made 10 albums with Peter Gabriel, like
Okay.
all the way back from the beginning. They've made albums with me. Guys who played with John Anderson from Yes
Yeah.
and Kitaro. And, you know, I lived in LA and I had access to all the greatest musicians. And then I
Yeah.
moved to Minneapolis and I had access to all the greatest musicians in
Yeah.
Minneapolis. And then I started to, you know, my book, Channeling Harrison, came out in 2014.
Wow.
And I didn't believe in channeling.
Yeah.
You know, so like 3/4 of that book is me trying to convince myself that this stuff isn't real, you know.
Sounds like you went to, yeah, that's amazing because I was surprised. I go, wow, and he had this book in his hand, and I was amazed. I was actually very impressed. I go, well, this is we all, you know, can tune in. But you had so many different awakenings on your path of levels of unfoldment, you know. It feels like pivotal points on your life. But my question to you is, were you born to do music, or did you always know it, or did you come into it?
Okay, I started playing the recorder in 3rd grade. And
Wow. Okay.
I was the worst recorder player in my class. The worst. Okay. I'm not a fast learner. You know what I mean? Some people takes more repetitive things to something. And so by some, honestly, like a miracle, my school, my class was given a 2nd year the recorder, and I've never met anybody who got 2 years.
Wow.
You know, and during the 2nd year, I started to get it. And by the end of the 2nd year, I had figured out how to play by ear. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then my parents recognized like I had this talent. You know, I'd always win talent shows, and because, you know, the way I only played 1 flute at a time. Okay. I didn't start playing 2 flutes at one time until I was playing on Venice Beach with Lisa in 1990. And, you know, it was boring playing the same songs all the time. So I started to play 2 at one time to break up the boredom. And that became my trade. I sold a million. Yeah, thanks. 1 million CDs of flute music. And I've had, I have no idea, you know, it's got to be about, I'm in New York City. So that's, you know,
just part of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I started doing these meditation events after my book came out. And then Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary started appearing to people. And growing up in the Jewish background, you don't know that Mother Mary is important, and you don't know anything about Mary Magdalene. And there was a Catholic school. I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood in Brooklyn, and in the 60s. And there was a Catholic school that was a couple of blocks away from me that was called Our Lady of Miracles. And I used to think, like, what the heck does that even mean? What lady are they talking about? Like, that's how, when you grow up in a certain ethical or, you know,
religious views and beliefs. You
have no idea. So, like, what do you mean, Our Lady of Miracles? I mean, what lady could they possibly be talking about? You know what I mean? That's how clueless I was. But I
Oh,
have to say,
wow.
in 1995, so I started, Celestial Winds started releasing CDs in 1993. We made cassette tape
Wow.
speech in
Okay.
1993. We sold 10,000 tapes between 1990 and 1992. And then in 1993, we started to make CDs. And,
Okay.
CDs changed everything because, you could sell a CD for $15, where a cassette tape you could sell for $8 to $10.
Right.
CDs were new. And so I had a really great reputation in the music business because I had
Yeah.
done things that, as an independent artist, like nobody had ever done. My Christmas album, Celestial Winds, became the biggest selling independent album in Canadian history in 1993 when it came out.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's called Christmas Morning, Celestial Winds
Mm.
Christmas Morning. And I have Christmas Morning is available as a musical card. You can see them on my website, davidyoungmusicandart.com. But there's a musical card that's called Peace on Earth. And the Peace on Earth musical card has that album.
Oh,
And
wow.
so then in 1995, right before I went solo, I was recording my album Bliss. Celestial Winds 1 was the first album. Christmas Morning was our
Okay.
second. Oceans of Love was our third album. And
Okay.
then I had a different harpist, and she made Bliss with me. And while I was recording the album Bliss, playing two flutes at one time, by this
Wow.
time, we've sold 100,000 CDs together. We travel 45 weekends a year all over, and we're doing amazing. We're getting airplay on 300 radio stations all around the United States, and we were one of the most up and coming new age groups. Like, we weren't as popular as Yanni, but we were the level underneath Yanni where we were really respected, and we traveled all over, and we sold hundreds of thousands of CDs, And so I was in the studio playing the two flutes, and it was the last song on this album called Bliss, which was actually a turning point in my career because that was the last album I made under the name Celestial Winds. And from that point forward, I was David Young on all my albums, And
Right.
and so I'm in the studio playing, and the lights are low, and she's playing the harp, and this woman appeared. Most of this woman appeared in the room across from me. I don't even have a clue who that it could even be. Because growing up Jewish, you don't know anything about mother, And so it was really and she hung there for like till I finished the song. So she was probably there for 2 minutes. And I'm playing the flutes and doing it. So I'm like playing for her. You know what I mean? If there's a lady in the room and you're
Wow.
man, a musician, you're going to play for her. And so I played. And so I didn't know what to name the song. And so, when you make spiritual music that does not have words, you close your eyes, you tune in, and you ask Spirit, okay, what should I name the song? Because you got to come up with something, if you don't have anything, you need something good. And the words that came to me is the heart of a rose.
Oh.
And I didn't know that when Mother Mary appears to people, she very often brings the fragrance of roses.
Yeah.
I have experienced that. I was doing, in 2015, I was doing an event with a channeler in New England named Anna Raimundi in Greenwich.
Okay.
And it was a whole special thing for Mother Mary. And this is like when she and Jesus and Mary Magdalene have been appearing at my events for probably 4 months. And I don't know what to think of any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Growing up in Brooklyn in a Jewish house, there was nothing that ever prepared me for this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And the night before, there was a smell of roses all over my head. And I was in my apartment by myself, and there was nobody in the apartment. And it smells like somebody's taking air freshener and spraying it all around my head.
Mhm.
It's so strong that I walk around all over my apartment to try to figure this out. And I can't figure it out. And I'm half asleep, so I go back to sleep. And that fragrance was with me for at least a half hour. And then the next night, I was doing this event where I was playing the flute. And when I was done playing the flute, Anna Raimundi came on, and she was speaking. And she said, you know, when Mother Mary appears to you, she very often brings the fragrance of roses.
Mm.
I'm like, oh my God.
Then you know who it was.
Yeah. And then I later wrote a song because somebody had an experience with Mother Mary at one of my events. And like, sometimes you'd have 10 or 15 people
Mm-hmm.
sharing experiences with one of the ascended masters, you know, because they're
Yeah.
all one big team. You know,
Yeah.
we're taught to think that they're separate because,
I don't know.
you know, in your town, if you've got a Jewish temple over here, a Christian church over here, and a Muslim synagogue over there, you know, you're probably not going into each one of them every week.
Mhm.
You know, you're probably going into one of them and only one of them your whole life, you know, or at least until you're much older. And
Yep.
so I didn't know what to think about any of these people. But when people were sharing these experiences, this woman here's all these people sharing these really cool, amazing spiritual experiences, and she raises her hand. She said, well, I was dancing on a cloud with Mother Mary, and we were dancing on the cloud for like 5 minutes, and then after 10 minutes she said to Mother Mary, is this all we're going to do? I mean, is this it? You know, my friends are sharing all these incredible experiences, you know. She said, is this it? And Mother Mary took her hands like this, and she said, love is all there is. And with that, they flew straight up into the heavens, and it exploded like fireworks and then floated down like sparkles. Okay?
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then the next day, I wrote this song.
Oh,
And this song is in the Jesus Mary Magdalene book, the true story of
yes.
his wife, Mary Magdalene. Because there's 12 QR codes that has my music in every chapter. So when you're listening to the music, you're reading that chapter with the music that's meant for that chapter. Mother Mary, walk with me. Mother Mary, talk with me. Show me where I'm going. Lift me with your smile. Am I on the path of nowhere? You've been with me all the while. Mother Mary, walk with me. Mother Mary, talk with me.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. It was amazing. You could feel it, and it's just awesome. I tell you what, a lot of people have gifts, but this is definitely your gift. It's natural for you, but you tune into it. It just comes to you. And I think it's amazing. And and you're also an artist. What do you want to talk about? How did that art, that part of you come out?
Well, it started. Okay, so I started having experiences with George Harrison in 2010.
Yep.
Okay, and I resisted it as hard as I could.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought being skeptical showed people I was intelligent, so I was as skeptical as I could possibly be. Okay, because we're taught don't believe everything you see, don't believe
Yeah.
everything
Go
you
back
hear.
to the beliefs. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Conditioning.
if everybody else doesn't believe in this kind of stuff, why are you going to believe in this kind of stuff? But the thing was that it was consistent. You know what I mean? George didn't go away. In the beginning, things only happened every couple of months. So
Yeah.
that gave me enough time to convince myself that it wasn't important and it wasn't real. Right. And I have to tell you, for whatever it's worth, when I was 22 years old, I stopped drinking.
Yeah.
I hadn't had a beer or a glass of wine since I was 22. I hadn't had a
Wow.
joint. Nothing. There was nothing. And this is already into my 50s. So I hadn't had a drink or a glass of wine at that point in 27 years. Okay. And it's not like I didn't have a problem with it. It's just that I was into meditation and I was taught that you're not supposed to.
Yep.
Because back then, that's what you were taught. That was before plant medicine became such a popular thing with so many, but back then, that was not looked at in a positive way, and so there wasn't anything that was influencing these experiences, and these were all evidential things that happened. These were not these were things that you couldn't just explain away.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I was dating a woman that was a painter about a year after the experiences with George.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And in the spare bedroom, I used to keep my guitars under the bed. And there was a big 3-foot by 4-foot canvas under her bed that was painted gray with a bunch of texture on it that she never finished. And so just imagine every couple of days I'm going in to get my guitar and take it to a studio or to someplace, to play. And I got to move this painting, right? And honestly, from the first time I moved that thing, I had this knowingness that something was going to happen with this thing, but I didn't paint. I couldn't draw. So if I couldn't draw, I'm not ever going to try to paint. You know what I mean? Came from, once I got good at the recorder, I studied from a guy in the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. Oh my God, if I do something, I do it 100,000,000%.
Yep.
And I'm not going to just I'm not going to try to paint something because I'm a perfectionist.
Yep.
And I'm not going to try doing something if I have no training in it and I can't do it to begin with. Okay. Yeah. So that's how, but after 6 months of moving that painting, one day I just had the idea that I should make some kind of painting out of it. Right.
Wow.
And I saw these, I had gone to like a Pier 1 or a place like that, or one of those kind of boutique places.
Sure. Yeah.
And I had, I saw a painting that was burgundy, brown, BB, gold, and gray, GG. Okay. And it was only these 4 colors. And I never, ever bought a painting in my life.
Wow.
And this thing was $99, but there was a crack in it And my intuition was screaming at me that I had to buy that painting. And my girlfriend at the time said, "But there's a big crack in it. You're going to buy a painting that's damaged? I mean, what's wrong with you?" You know what I mean? And so she went around to look at something else, and she came back, but I could not leave this painting.
Mm.
This is a part of the story I don't tell often because my story is so long now because of all these books and everything, you know? And so, but this is really how I started to paint. And so she comes back, and I must have sounded crazy, but I said, "I'm not leaving without this painting." And she looked at me like, "Man, this is weird." Okay, so she got the manager, and she got the manager to take $30 off, so it was only $69 with the
Okay.
whole thing that they were going to order another one, and when the next one came in, they were going to call us and give us one without this big crack in it. Okay,
Mm.
so I take that home, I put that over the bed. It looked great, and then I thought, man, there's this big empty wall over here. I should get that big painting under the bed where I put my guitars, and I should paint something on it that matches this burgundy, brown, gold, and gray painting. Got it? So I'm going to try to make it look like these two paintings were supposed to come together. Like, you see these two paintings? Here, let me just
Mhm.
look a little bit. You see those two paintings?
Yep.
You see how they go together? Right? You know? So
Inspiration.
what I was going to do, I was making a second painting to match this first painting. And this thing happened to be 4 feet wide by 3 feet high. And I painted on this thing obsessively
Wow.
for 9 hours. And if there's any comedy part of this thing, is that, like, after 2 hours, I said, "Okay, I'm done." And she washed the brushes, right? But then I'm looking at it, and being the perfectionist that I am, I'm like, I got to add a little bit more here and there and here and there and here and there. So I started painting again. And
Mm.
then, and so she cleaned the brushes 7 times.
Wow.
Thick brushes, and it took 5-10 minutes to clean these brushes. And after the 7th time, she says, "I think it's great that you are so involved in your project. I'm not cleaning those brushes one more time." So I cleaned the brushes 2 more times.
Wow.
When I was done, it was 3 great pyramids. 1, 2, 3. No, wait a minute. 3 great pyramids. 1, 2,
Oh,
and
wow.
1 gold pyramid surrounded by burgundy and brown. And a couple of weeks after I made that painting, my friend gave me a book on George Harrison's life. And
Ah, I see the
and
connections. Yep.
and George had a favorite jacket that he wore on the most important days of his life because he had a spiritual experience with
Yep.
colors and these patterns. And I had painted
Mhm.
colors and these patterns the way he had a jacket made with that pattern and those exact 4 colors and that pattern of pyramids.
Amazing.
Yeah. So then a couple of weeks later, for the first time, he appeared to me smiling, because during that year, he appeared in my meditations once, very serious. And he
Wow.
appeared in my dreams twice, very serious. Like it was the only thing I could connect it to, it just looked like it was some biblical thing. But I
Yeah.
wasn't in the Bible, and I really wasn't that into Judaism, you know what I mean? And like,
Yep.
what? What? I couldn't understand it. And he was looking at me like, "Well, are you coming with me or not?" "Why are you even talking to me?" But I wasn't interested in him at all. I was a Led Zeppelin fan. I loved The Who and Bad Company and AC/DC, and I liked hard rock music. I did not
Mhm.
care the Beatles, and I wasn't young enough to be a original Beatle
Mm.
fan. So I completely don't understand why this guy is showing up in my life, and he's consistent. You know, over that year, oh my God, I had probably written 75 pages of miracles that this guy had created in my life.
Wow.
While I'm trying to convince myself out of it. But I kept track of it because I had a couple of friends that were big Beatles fans, and they just thought it was just outrageous. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it was Jimi Hendrix or somebody who I thought was cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so after I made this painting, for the first time, George appears to me in a dream, and he's smiling. And he says, this is what he says to me. The first thing he says to me after a year, he says, I like to play tennis with soft grass behind me. And I'm thinking, I think I heard what he said, but that doesn't make any sense at all. So I said, what? And he said, I like to play tennis with soft grass behind me. He burst out laughing. He disappeared in front of me. I woke up, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, 2011. I said to, my girlfriend at the time, what does it mean? And she says, I have no idea, but let me go back to sleep because I got to wake up for work in 2 hours, And a couple of weeks later, Rolling Stone magazine put out the George Harrison special issue. And in that issue was a picture of George playing tennis with the grass behind him.
How wonderful.
And there were only 2 words in bold on that whole page. And now those 2 words are Forever Young. And my nickname was David Forever Young because I used to look a lot younger than I was.
Wow, this is amazing. David, how can people find your books and your CDs? Is it off Amazon? Is it direct on your website? How can people get your products and learn more about you?
Yeah, my website is David Young Music and Art, spelled out, David Young Music and Art.com. So basically, I know we're coming towards the end of this interview, and we're barely touching.
We'll have you back on. You're amazing. Your stories are just so intriguing and held my attention of wanting to know more.
Well, let me tell you one last thing to kind of tie it all together. That's kind of going to be like a little cliffhanger before we do the next interview.
Okay.
George, when he wrote the song My Sweet Lord, he wrote that about his appreciation for Krishna, who's like the Hindu saint, and Jesus, who's the Christian saint. Okay, he wrote it for both of them. Yep. And John Lennon and Paul McCartney did not want to record that song because My Sweet Lord sounded like a Christian song, and the Beatles weren't about to do something that sounded like a Christian song. Okay, so George recorded that song on his own because he really believed in that song, and Jesus appeared to him. And Jesus told George that in his lifetime as Jesus, George was one of his biological brothers. And George did what any good man would do and fainted. And so the reason why George was sent to wake me up is because of my Jewish background. There was nothing that Jesus, Mary Magdalene could do to get through to me because I wanted to hear nothing about it. I was born Jewish. You know what I mean? Obviously, they were all Jewish also. But George was one of Jesus's younger brothers, one of Mother Mary's other sons.
Yeah.
And so they sent him to wake me up because he was a guitar player and I was a guitar player. They were thinking, oh, this is going to be easy. David's a guitar player. George is a guitar player. David's going to think George is the coolest thing ever, and this is going to be easy. But I didn't know how to play one Beatles song because I didn't think the Beatles were that cool because I liked hard rock and heavy metal. Really, that's That's the truth. And so I resisted it. But I have to tell you that I learned so much about making great music from them, because I used
That's
to make
awesome.
that was too complicated. I didn't like things that were simple, you
Mhm.
know, because being a musician since I'm 7 years old, I got into all the advanced classical and the difficult things to
Mhm.
play, things that were really challenging. And that's what happens to so many musicians is
Wow.
you get so good at your instrument, you
Yep.
you can't appreciate two chords. Mother Mary
Mhm.
song, two chords, three chords. That's it. It's simple, easy to remember. You know,
Yes, that's a good reminder.
back in the days of the Beatles, they didn't have Shazam. When a song played, you didn't see a readout on a screen of what the name of the song was and the artist. The song went by, and if you couldn't remember the song, then you couldn't buy it. And the whole goal, the whole motive of the whole thing was a record company to invest in an artist,
That
to make a song that people could buy so the record company could get their money back and then eventually make a profit.
yeah.
That's the music business before the digital age.
Yeah.
And so I found out before Channeling Harrison was published at the end of 2013, because it came out in 2014. I found out at the end of 2013 that John had been involved in the thing all along. A bunch of crazy things that had happened with John, but I never could have imagined that he was involved in that whole thing also. You know what I mean? And they connected before my book came out. They sent me an email through a famous channeler named Bob Murray.
Yep.
Bob Murray was an amazing, a saint of a man,
Yeah.
really. And because Bob Murray had a monthly newsletter called thestarsstillshine.com,
Mhm.
every month for
Yeah.
30 years, he interviewed 4 people in heaven. So over 30, he's interviewed John Lennon 20 times and George Harrison 10 times. And he found out that I had a book coming out called Channeling Harrison,
Wow.
about my experiences with George Harrison. And so he sent me an email.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Bob Murray. I'm a channeler from Canada. And,
Yeah.
I've been channeling John Lennon since he died in 1980. And I've been channeling George Harrison since 2001 when he died, because he's good friends with John. They still hang out all the
Yeah.
time together. And they know you have a book coming out, and you're doing a great job keeping track of all the stories for the book. And you're really a fine musician, but there's something wrong with the G string on your guitar because you left it in a place with a humidity problem. And I had left my guitar. I had left this guitar at my mom's apartment, and there was a humidity problem in my mom's apartment, and my G string would never stay in tune. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how mind
Yeah.
blowing I was?
Yeah.
So from that point forward, they were able to talk to me through Bob Murray, and I talked to him every day, and he never charged me. I talked to him for an hour and a half, and they knew everything about me. And one of the
Yeah.
things they said they wanted me to start doing events in
Yeah.
February of 2014. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. My book doesn't come out until May of 2014, 4 months later. Why am I going to be promoting a book that isn't even out yet? Makes no sense. And they said, well, from our higher perspective up here in the heavenly dimension, we can see all the way down into your world.
Yeah.
And we tell you
Yeah.
it will be in
Yeah.
your benefit to start doing events in February 2014.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. That just sounds ridiculous. You know what I mean? And then they finally got frustrated with me, and they said, okay, you do what you want, but we're telling you it's going to be in your benefit if you do events in February of 2014. So they threw me so much of an attitude. And your guides usually don't throw you an attitude, And
Yeah.
so I said, okay, all right, I'll hire an agent who booked 9 events in February, and the first event that was booked was February 9th. 2-9.
Yeah.
2 is a powerful number. Okay. Besides the fact that it's 2 9s, it's an 18, and that's the most powerful number in the Kabbalah and everything. Okay. So 2 weeks before February 9th, my agent calls me up, jumping out of her skin with excitement. And she said, David, did you know February 9th is the 50th anniversary of when the Beatles played on the Ed Sullivan Show the first time when Beatlemania started? Can you believe that? On February 7th, advanced copies of my books arrived. And on February 7th, the Beatles basically flew over my house in Brooklyn and landed in Kennedy Airport. 50 years to the day. You know, so the moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the moral of the story is that when you get spiritual signs about something consistently, your skepticism at a certain point is not really giving you the benefits of the spiritual guidance that you're being given. We're taught to be logical, but it's not logical to have all of these things keep happening around one number or one person in history or a certain thing in your life. You're gonna put things together. You could be a reincarnation of one of the family, one of Mother Mary, her sister. Her sister was Mary Magdalene's mother. Mary Magdalene was Mother Mary's niece, and Mary Magdalene had a sister named Martha. When Mary Magdalene was 16 and Martha was 18, they were introduced to their older cousins, Jesus and his first brother, James. And Jesus and Mary Magdalene had... Oh my God. Are you still there? Can you see me?
Yeah, I could see you.
Okay. I can't see you because something just popped up. Jesus and Mary Magdalene had love at first sight, and James and Martha had love at first sight. And from the time Jesus was 30 to 33, he and Mary Magdalene had 3 children. That's easy math. And after then that terrible thing happened, and there were 3 men tortured that day. And this is what's in that video you guys saw. There were 3 men tortured that day, but only one of those men was taken down off the cross and put into the cave, into the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. And that's because Joseph of Arimathea was Jesus's father-in-law. Joseph of Arimathea was Mary Magdalene's father. And that was Jesus's uncle as well. So it was his father-in-law and his uncle. That's why he's taken down after 6 hours and put into the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea. It's the family tomb. And the soldier lets Mary Magdalene and Martha into the tomb each day because they were healers. They were shamans, and they knew herbology, all that stuff. And they kept him alive and put bandages on his wounds and gave him water and kept him alive while he was having a near-death experience, and he was unconscious. After the 3rd day, the Roman soldier brings a wooden cart covered by hay, takes Jesus's body out of the tomb while he's alive, unconscious, puts him in the center of the cart and covers up his body with the hay in the cart. Mary Magdalene rides the horse, and that's how she saves his life. They made their way up to France. It took them 5 years to get to where the cave of Mary Magdalene is, because they basically went almost 3,000 miles on that cart. And the first year was horrendous because he had 5 holes in his body, but he ended up healing. And Mary Magdalene healed him. And when they got to the cave about 5 years later, she had their 4th child, whose name was Sarah. And so what the Da Vinci Code alludes to is that somehow Mary Magdalene was pregnant with Jesus's child and their bloodline lived on. That's true. That's true.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David, for being on our show and sharing all the wealth of information that you have and your enlightenment and your unfolding on your path and your awakening as well, and sharing your message with others to really look at things in a different perception and truth. And thank you so much. And we'll have you back on. And I just want to say thank you to all our people who are watching. Please like us and share our podcast page and this video. Thank you again, David, and blessings to all who are watching. Have an amazing life and journey. International psychic medium and podcast host Sherry Lord. She is one of the most sought after psychic mediums. Book your special readings. Go to www.sherrylord.com.